They tell you that love is the solution to everything. They say if you give fully, forgive quickly, and remain soft, the world will protect you. You will be respected, you will be safe, you will be valued. But that is not how the world works. History, philosophy, and experience show a harsher truth. Machiavelli did not view love as a shield. He saw it as a liability when left unguarded. Love opens doors. Love softens the mind. Love can disarm your natural caution. And when that happens, others can walk in and use it against you. This is not because love is evil. It is because love blinds the one who carries it without boundaries. Machiavelli knew that a man who relies only on love will eventually be destroyed by it. He believed fear creates survival where love alone cannot. Fear commands respect when love fades, and fear maintains order where affection fails. That does not mean abandon love. It means never lead with it, because once you lead with love, you give away your leverage. To survive, you must learn to love with calculation. Warmth is not forbidden, but warmth without walls becomes weakness. The true danger is not found in enemies. It is hidden in familiarity. The closer someone stands, the sharper their ability to wound you. Enemies fear your distance, but the people you love grow used to your forgiveness. They mistake your patience for obedience. They demand your loyalty without pause. Over time, your generosity stops being a blessing. It becomes an expectation. And once it becomes expected, you are no longer free. Machiavelli warned that this is how power dissolves, not in war, but in intimacy. Love changes the way you think. It makes you stop measuring. It makes you stop guarding. You believe that if you would never betray them, they would never betray you. But reality does not match that belief. The harshest betrayals rarely come from strangers. They come from those who know your heart. Your enemies cannot touch what they do not have access to. But those closest to you hold the keys. They know your weaknesses. They know your forgiveness. They know your silence. And eventually they may use it against you. Love without balance creates entitlement. Forgiveness without limit creates dependence. And loyalty without boundaries creates exploitation. What begins as devotion becomes an open wound, and the wound is easy to press for anyone who knows where it lies. Machiavelli never told us to erase love. He told us to contain it, to set a ceiling on it, to measure it with calculation. Because love without control is not strength, it is exposure. And exposure is dangerous. Being cold-blooded does not mean cruel, it means conscious. It means knowing when warmth is deserved and when it becomes dangerous. It means being aware of how relationships shift when you remove resistance. The problem is not love itself. The problem is that love makes you predictable. Predictability removes your leverage. And once you lose leverage, you lose respect. Respect leaves and entitlement takes its place. That is why you must love with limits. Boundaries make love sustainable. Boundaries keep love from consuming you. Without them, kindness transforms into currency for others to spend. And once they spend it freely, they stop valuing it. The fragile nature of love is not its existence, it is its blindness. And only by guarding it can you prevent it from turning against you. The proof of this danger shows itself in patterns. Machiavelli would not call them surprises, he would call them tests. And these tests appear when affection begins to shift into assumption. At first, people thank you. They appreciate your presence. They see your help as a gift. But soon the gratitude fades. They stop asking. They stop checking. They stop recognizing what you give. They believe you will always be there. And when you finally say no, you become the villain. You are told you have changed. You are told you are selfish. But nothing has changed except your willingness to be drained. That is the test of entitlement. It proves who valued your kindness and who only consumed it. Another test comes wrapped in guilt. You protect your time. You set a line. And suddenly you are accused of being cold. They cry, they panic, they push. Not because they care about the boundary, but because it removed their access. They know guilt can bend you where reason cannot. And if you bend once, they will press it again. That is not love. It is manipulation, disguised as emotion. Then there is the loyalty trap. You remain consistent. You show up when others do not. You carry their weight. At first it is noticed, then it becomes expected. Eventually it is taken for granted, and when you finally pull back, they panic. Not because they value you, but because they lost their safety net. Machiavelli would laugh at this. He would say predictable loyalty is not appreciated. It is exploited. And every time you give without thought, you make it easier for others to take without gratitude. These tests are not random. They are inevitable. And if you cannot pass them, your love will enslave you. To remain powerful, you must see these tests for what they are, not proof of hate, but proof of human nature. And the only shield against them is boundaries sharp enough to cut through expectation. Softness is praised by society. They tell you to be forgiving. They tell you to be endlessly patient. They tell you that love should conquer all. But softness without control does not create harmony. It creates imbalance. Because when people know you will always forgive, they stop fearing consequence. And when they stop fearing consequence, they stop respecting you. The closer people are, the easier they forget your value. At first, they admire your warmth. They see your generosity as rare. But over time, it becomes routine. What was once impressive is now assumed. What was once a gift is now their right. And if you pull back, they accuse you of cruelty. They are not mourning you. They are mourning the loss of easy access. Softness, when left unchecked, creates entitlement. It tells people they can step over your limits without penalty. And when that happens, your boundaries become invisible. You become predictable. You become safe to use. And eventually, you are seen not as strong, but as available. This is how love turns to weakness. Machiavelli warned against this trap. He knew enemies were not the main threat. It was the friends, the lovers, the family who grew too comfortable, because they did not fear losing you. And when fear leaves, respect leaves with it. Love without respect is dependency, not devotion. It is a chain placed around your own neck. The danger of softness is not in loving. It is in assuming that love alone can sustain respect. Respect must be reinforced. It must be maintained through boundaries and consequence, not through endless forgiveness, not through constant explanations, not through bending until you break. Cold-blooded awareness changes this dynamic. It teaches you that you can love, but not without discipline. It shows you that you can care, but not without calculation. It reminds you that those who rely on your kindness will test its limits. And the only way to protect your power is to let them feel those limits. Softness feels safe because it avoids conflict. But avoidance is not safety. It is silent surrender. Every time you remain quiet to keep the peace belongs to everyone but you. Every time you forgive too quickly, you tell them that actions have no cost. Every time you let guilt dictate your choices, you surrender your position. And when your position is gone, so is your influence. To Machiavelli, true strength was not found in cruelty. It was found in control. And control cannot exist where softness rules unchecked. You do not stop being kind. You stop being careless with your kindness. You do not stop loving. You stop allowing love to blind you. Because when softness is your only weapon, you are already disarmed. Most people set conditions instead of consequences. They say, "Don't talk to me like that again." They say, "If you do this, I'll get upset." They beg, "Please don't disrespect me." But begging for respect is not power. It is weakness dressed as communication. Machiavelli would never beg for better behavior. He believed power lies in action, not requests. When someone crosses a line, you do not warn, you withdraw. You do not plead, you disappear. And you do not return because they panic. You return only when you decide, if ever. That silence, that removal, is what creates fear. And fear sustains respect where words cannot. Boundaries are not conditions, they are walls. And those walls do not wobble depending on who stands in front of them. Too many people bend their limits based on emotion. They say no today, but yes tomorrow. They enforce one rule with strangers and ignore it with loved ones. This inconsistency kills value. It tells others that your boundaries are negotiable, and what is negotiable is always exploited. Machiavelli understood human nature. He knew that people test not what is enforced but what is flexible. If you forgive without reform, they will repeat. If you explain endlessly, they will debate. If you threaten without action, they will ignore you. Only finality commands attention. Only consistency builds reputation. Being cold-blooded in boundaries is not about cruelty. It is about precision. It is about making every consequence sharp, clear, and undeniable. It is about removing emotional negotiation from your defense. Because once someone realizes your feelings can be played, they will never respect your mind again. You must also resist the fear of being seen as harsh. This is where most collapse. They know they are being used. They know their peace is being disturbed. But when they enforce, guilt follows. They are told they are cold. They are told they are heartless. They are told they have changed. And to avoid the label, they fold. They let people back in. They soften their stance. And they start the cycle again. But Machiavelli would not care about labels. He feared being seen as easy more than being seen as harsh, because harsh can still be respected. Easy can only be exploited. That is the truth most ignore. You do not need to defend your distance. You do not need to justify your silence. You do not need to apologize for your evolution. You only need to act. Let them call you cold. Let them say you have changed. Let them frame your growth as betrayal, because their discomfort is not your problem. It is simply the cost of losing access to the weaker version of you. Boundaries, then, are not requests. They are silent enforcements. They are actions repeated until others learn the lesson without words. They are the filter that decides who deserves your warmth, and they are the shield that protects you from being drained. The moment you stop begging and start enforcing, you rise in power. The moment you stop fearing reputation and start prioritizing reality, you gain control. And the moment your boundaries stop being negotiable, your love finally becomes safe to give. Many people confuse being cold-blooded with being heartless. They believe if you stop reacting emotionally, you lose your humanity. But Machiavelli never promoted numbness. He promoted discipline, control, not cruelty, strategy, not suppression. The real danger is not in feeling too little. It is in feeling too much without filter. When you react instantly, you hand your power to the other person. They press a button and you move. They withdraw and you chase. They accuse and you explain. They cry and you soften. In every scenario, you are predictable, and predictability is weakness. Cold-blooded thinking teaches the opposite. You slow your reactions. You see betrayal and remain still. You hear disrespect and stay silent. You notice lies but do not spiral. Instead of asking, why did they do this to me? You ask, what does this teach me about them? This shift changes everything. It turns pain into intelligence. It turns disappointment into strategy. It turns rejection into positioning. Do you know what frightens people most? Not rage, not shouting, not revenge. It is indifference. The silence of someone who has seen the betrayal, yet refuses to react. Because silence removes certainty. They do not know what you will do. They do not know when you will act. They only know access has been removed. And that unknown is more intimidating than any outburst. Machiavelli knew timing was more powerful than emotion. It is not the strongest feeling that wins. It is the strongest patience. The ability to wait, to calculate, to move only when advantage appears. That is real strength. Anger can be manipulated. Desperation can be played. But calm indifference cannot be touched. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop giving away your care without qualification. Your heart still beats. Your empathy still exists. But it is earned, not assumed. It is offered with standards, not desperation. It is protected by silence, not exposed by explanation. The discipline of control is rare. Most people chase validation. They want to be seen as good. They want to be understood. They want others to agree with their evolution. But if you require approval, you are already chained. Machiavelli would say approval is worthless if it costs you position. So control yourself first. Protect your emotional center like a fortress. Do not collapse at every push. Do not break at every test. Your stillness will command more respect than your speeches ever could, and your silence will carry more weight than your defenses. The man or woman who cannot be controlled by emotion cannot be controlled by anyone, and that is the core of being cold-blooded. Many fear becoming cold because they believe it means losing themselves. They fear that if they harden, they will never soften again. But Machiavelli's wisdom points to a different path. He never abandoned humanity. He mastered it. He knew that power is not found in cruelty but in control, and control allows you to choose when to show warmth. This is the balance most fail to achieve. They either remain endlessly soft and get exploited, or they turn completely hard and lose their humanity. The cold-blooded path is the middle path. It is strategic empathy. You love, but you love with rules. You give, but you give with observation. You forgive, but only when change has been proven. Strategic empathy is not about withholding forever. It is about filtering access. Your heart is not a public space. It is a gated fortress. And only those who consistently prove themselves gain entry. Even then, no one is exempt from requalification. Because loyalty is not a trophy earned once. It is a discipline shown repeatedly. This way of living requires internal clarity. You must know your own standards before you can enforce them. Ask yourself, what do I tolerate? What will I never accept again? Where do I draw the line between kindness and surrender? Once you define these, you never wobble. You do not adjust because you are tired. You do not shift because someone is close. You do not excuse because you fear conflict. Consistency becomes your shield, and through it, respect grows. Machiavelli would say mercy has a place. There is nothing wrong with giving another chance. There is nothing wrong with kindness. But mercy must never erase consequence. Forgiveness is fine, but only when reform is visible. Otherwise, you are not being merciful. You are being naive, and naivety is the currency manipulators thrive on. Strategic empathy also requires controlling presence. Power is not only in withdrawal, it is in appearing with purpose. You enter rooms with clarity. You speak with weight. You leave before familiarity erases impact. People remember you not for drama but for discipline, not for noise but for precision. This presence changes how others treat you. You are no longer easy to read, no longer easy to use, no longer easy to move. Finally, you must accept being misunderstood. This is the hardest step. They will call you distant. They will call you arrogant. They will say you are heartless. But their labels are not your truth. Their discomfort is not your burden. Their accusations are simply echoes of losing their advantage. Let them speak. Let them rewrite your story. Because the people who mattered will see the results, and the ones who depended on your weakness will fade away. Strategic empathy is the highest form of love. It is love sharpened by wisdom. It is love protected by boundaries. It is love that does not enslave you but sustains you. And once mastered, it allows you to keep your humanity without losing your power. We have explored why love, without boundaries, can become your greatest vulnerability. We have seen how softness can be exploited by those closest to you. We have learned the tests of entitlement, guilt, loyalty, and access. We have understood that being cold-blooded is not about cruelty. It is about control. It is about awareness. It is about protecting your position while still remaining human. Boundaries are your shields. Consistency is your power. Silence is your leverage. Presence, when measured, becomes influence. Strategic empathy allows you to love without surrendering yourself. Mercy can exist, but it never cancels consequence. Kindness is valuable, but only when it is earned. Your emotional center must remain yours first. Otherwise, every action you take becomes currency for others to exploit. Remember, the goal is not to become numb. It is not to harden indefinitely. It is to master the middle path, to remain warm but protected, to be present but precise, to show care but never at the cost of your freedom. The cold-blooded mind sees betrayal as intelligence. It sees pain as positioning. It sees silence as power. and it turns emotional exposure into strategic advantage. If you take one thing away, let it be this: love wisely, act deliberately, and enforce boundaries without apology. Your humanity is not lost when you protect it. It is preserved and amplified. If you found these insights valuable, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to Psychology Insights for more guidance on emotional intelligence, strategy, and self-mastery. Stay disciplined, stay aware, and remember, true power comes from clarity, not chaos.